today's theme is going to be, but I think that our topic is perfectly, or my topic for my speech today is very well placed. This is me and my business. My business is Fresh Concepts, and usually what I'm doing is talking to businesses about the best ways to interact with one another. Today, I'm not going to be hitting on that so much, so we're going to be talking a little bit about my business. I'm going to hopefully be helping you to make your speeches more memorable. Not just your speeches here, but anytime you're talking or interacting with anyone. And what I'm going to be using to help me, since I'm not really a total expert on this, is using this book, Made to Stick. This has been written by two brothers, Chip and Dan Heath. Has anyone heard of this book? Oh, it's been a life changer for me. And I'm hopefully today, what we're going to see is I'm going to walk through with you how the steps of this book have really impacted me. Not just how I present to organizations or how I teach to my class, but also how I talk to individuals. Some of this is intuitive. Some of this you'll think, oh my gosh, I already knew that. And that's what I realized when I first read this book is, I am using some of these techniques. Having them all at your fingertips makes a big impact. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What's interesting is that there's an acronym. Actually, my business is an acronym. Fresh Concepts stands for Feedback, Reinforcement, Emotional Intelligence, Servant Leadership, and the Human Relations Movement. And Made to Stick has its own anachronism, which is, success. It's not spelled out here, but what you're going to see as we go through these 6 key qualities, there's 6 key qualities that make stories memorable. We're going to go through each one. And as you'll be able to see, the first letter of each key spells success. Kind of corny, really. In fact, I'm so corny, I probably would have named my book Success. It's actually much cuter that it's Made to Stick. And Made to Stick, it's like, okay, what sticks and what doesn't? Why are some ideas memorable and rememberable, and others, boom, gone, right? We all want to know the answer to that. So this is going to walk you through. So the very first thing, simplicity. We all know the more simply you can speak, the better. If you have a really complex idea, you have to boil it down. When we listen to our presidential candidates speak, we want to have confidence in them. But do we really want to know all the background of all the political issues? There's no way we could really conceptualize and understand all those issues. What this says is, if you say 3 things, you don't say anything. What do you think that means? 3 things is too many. You have to say 1 thing. 1 thing is enough. And the example there is, if the economy stupid. Do you remember that phrase? That's a political campaign phrase that James Carville actually came up with. And he said, this needs to be the one thing that we hang our hat on. It's the economy stupid. The idea is, if people can understand, what do you stand for? What is this speech about? What are you trying to convey to me? Whether you're speaking to your boss or speaking in this type of a venue, what's the one thing that you're trying to convey? Today, I'm trying to convey to you, how do you make your speeches memorable? I'm going to give you 6 steps that help you do that, but that's the one real thing I'm trying to help you understand. Number 2, unexpected. Really? At first when I read this, I thought, how could it be that we want things to be unexpected? Well, when we're startled, right? It's more memorable. So, if something's unexpected, it ingrains in us more readily. Nordstrom has really harnessed this power. How many people have shopped at Nordstrom before? How many people know what their customer service plan is? Do you know, Tom?
Well, I know I can shop with one person and go to every department in the store. That's what I like about it.
Do you know what their return policy is?
Yeah, I've bought shoes, worn them for 30 days and brought them back and got my money back. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
Incredible, oddly good, to the point where you think they're losing money. I'm worried.
Right.
I feel as though now I'm taking advantage of the situation. Purposeful, completely purposeful. It's unexpected. They want it to be so unexpected that it runs like wildfire, not just through people that may shop there, but also through their service people. Crazy stories. Returning tire chains when they don't sell tire chains. Wrapping presents from Macy's in a box from Macy's in their wrapping department. Why? Because it stands for what they believe in. We want to be the premier, and we don't want to nickel and dime you. You'll end up coming back to us and actually spending money, even if we seem to be giving it all away right now.
Right.
That way it's memorable. You don't just say to your salespeople, we want the highest customer service. You can return, people can return anything, and that's fine. They share stories that exemplify exactly what they need. So you got to keep people's attention. That startling effect is what makes things memorable. How do you do that? At the end of our talk today, I'm going to show you an example. This is one of the things I didn't realize I was doing it in my classroom, but I've now integrated this idea of getting people's attention. Sometimes when you have something unexpected, it makes things more memorable, and therefore it sticks. So you'll be thinking about that in a little bit. Number 3, concrete. Things need to be concrete. Airy-fairy, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't make sense to people. It needs to be concrete. And so the example here is, if we all are talking about a bicycle, we have something in our mind. What about justice? Blah, 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 blah. Right? Maybe you have the American flag. I'm not sure what justice stands for, but it's very broad. It's very unspecific. It's not concrete. If you want to talk about justice, maybe you want to talk about the legal system. Maybe you want to talk about someone who was imprisoned wrongly and was then set free. Those individual stories help us understand justice. But the concept of justice is very hard for us to grasp. When you're conveying stories or making a point with people, try to be as specific as possible. Talk about a bicycle when you can. If it can illustrate the airy-fairy concept that you're trying to discuss, use some concrete analogies or metaphors within your discussion so that people really understand what you're talking about. Garlic press versus the meta-analysis. Does anyone here know what a meta-analysis is?
It's like an analysis of metadata?
I'm sorry?
Metadata? Analysis of metadata?
No.
No.
Good, nice, excellent try. How many people here know what a garlic press is? Okay, a few cooks in the room. Excellent. The garlic press and the meta-analysis are actually beautifully related. I may be the only one that actually believes that they're related, but I will be demonstrating to you how the meta-analysis, I will define later on today what the meta-analysis is, and how the garlic press actually beautifully illustrates what a meta-analysis does in a very concrete way. A meta-analysis is an airy-fairy term that's used in organizational behavior, the topic that I discuss in my class. And I struggled. How do I explain this to my students? What does this mean? After I read this book, I had been using a metaphor to explain what a meta-analysis was. But after I read this book, I said, I'm bringing it in. I am bringing in the garlic press and the garlic, and we are doing it. Because it legitimized my gut, my intuition about how making things concrete allows them actually to stick. so that then my students would remember what a meta-analysis was. And you will too. Number 4, credible. So who are you? Who do we care about? Who do we really believe in? Well, we believe in our family, right? People that are close to us, people that we already know and trust. Maybe sometimes we believe in our faith. That's a gearing, a central piece of our belief system. To have something be memorable, you need to believe in the person you're listening to. Sometimes you see someone on TV, you say, oh, they're such an idiot. I don't believe anything they say. Some of these crazy reality stars, oh well, whatever, I don't care, right? What happens if it's your state senator? What happens if it is the pastor of your church who's in front of you telling you something? You feel very differently about those words. Your parent, your relative. Someone tells you something and looks you in the eye and tells you, this is the way it is. Oh, okay, I believe you. When you're in front of a group, depending on how well you know them, you have to prove your credibility. You have to demonstrate, are you credible on this topic or on other topics? Should I believe you? Part of what I tried to discuss at the beginning of this talk was that I teach at the college level. That gives me a little credibility. That I speak in front of big groups gives me a little bit of credibility. That this isn't the first time that I've discussed this topic. Probably makes you think, okay, she kind of knows what she's talking about. That's what everyone needs to do when they enter into any kind of conversation. You're trying to persuade someone, if you're trying to convince them, what do you know about it? We all do this instinctively on some level. Maybe not as overtly maybe as we should. But it's something you should think about. We also pay attention to experts and celebrities. It's interesting because I never considered myself an expert on organizational behavior until about a year ago. And I realized this is all I've been doing my whole life. It's all I read about. I read crazy books like Made to Stick because I love it. And guess what? I would probably teach, don't tell IUPUI, but I would probably teach that class for free if they asked me to. Maybe not. Maybe. I almost do anyway, so I guess it's all a wash. But I realized, gosh, I do love this subject matter, and I am an expert about it. After graduate school, and it's the only field I've ever worked in, and the only field I really care about. But I hadn't really felt comfortable sharing that with people. Now I feel more comfortable sharing. This is my field. This is what I know about. This is what I want to talk about. Trying to realize what are the things that I really care about and know about. We know, for instance, that maybe John would call himself an expert on the stars and stargazing. It certainly is a passion of yours. Is that right?
That's right.
We listen to your talks about that, and we think, I think, wow, I know nothing about that area. And certainly, you have an expertise that is important to the rest of us. We learn a lot from you because you've shared, this has been my hobby, this is what I've been doing for this many years. Those are the ways that you can be more sticky. The things that you say are more sticky to us. They hold on more deeply than someone said, oh, I just picked up this book and I read this today. We believe you. You've been looking at this for a long time. Everyone should consider their own expertise when trying to see how much they can impact somebody else's memorability when they're talking about something. Keep going for the wrong one. Stories.
I think he was number 5.
Did I skip one?
Yep.
I thought I
You're on
did.
5.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Emotional. How could we have forgotten it? This is one that I don't use as frequently because mostly I am either teaching or talking to business groups. What we know is that when someone tells us an emotional story, we're more apt to listen to them. The great example that I have here is that making people care. Charities are a great example. You always need to talk about the individual, not about the group. If we talk about the millions of people that are starving in Africa, we all say, oh, that's so sad. If we talk about the one child that you could help by donating $5 right now, we say, here it is. I can make a difference in this one person's life. That's what makes a big difference. The other is self-interest. What's in it for me? That's what makes people care. Being emotional and triggering that, getting people, all of a sudden they're listening to you. Now, stories. We weren't even talking about stories. I've been trying to tell you small stories in little bits and pieces this whole time. Stories are the way our brains are hardwired. We remember stories. If I went through this list and didn't tell you one story, you would remember nothing. Because each of these have come with their own mini story, it makes it more memorable. Whenever you're trying to summarize something, make it into a mini story. That is what other people are going to be able to remember. If you can personalize it, even better. If you can make it memorable, or, I'm sorry, emotional, even better. If you can have a concrete idea behind it, even better. Jared's Subway diet, does everyone remember this? How could we forget it, right? All Jared did was eat Subway sandwiches and he lost all that weight. It took off because it was so memorable. And it was a story, it's a real person. All he had to do was eat Subway sandwiches. It's like falling off a log, right? All you need is a bunch of money and you can lose a bunch of weight. Wonderful. People love the story aspect of Jared. That's what made it so memorable. So, success. What's the first one? What is success? How? Success is the acronym that's going to share with us how we can make what we want to talk about more memorable. Simple. You. I'm sorry? Unexpected. Very good. C.
Concrete.
Concrete. Other C. Credible. E.
Emotional.
Emotional. S. Stories.
Stories.
Meta-analysis. A meta-analysis is the grouping of multiple statistical studies and analyzing them using a particular type of, I didn't teach this semester, so I can't think, a particular type of analysis, which is, it's called a statistical analysis. So you take multiple studies and you analyze them statistically. It's very concrete, but it sounds very airy-fairy. So what I say to my students is, have you ever seen a garlic press? A garlic press, you put in multiple cloves of garlic. These are very big cloves. I need a smaller one. There's the perfect size one. And then what do? You mash them all together. That's what the meta-analysis does. It mashes all of that research together and gives you one best estimate. So if I had multiple studies on, whoopsie, the best way to reduce stress before testing. There are hundreds of research about that. The meta-analysis takes all that research and statistically analyzes them. It crunches them in the garlic press. And it comes out with one big smelly result. Okay?
Right.
That is the meta-analysis. It's all there, crunched up. I had used this metaphor in my classroom, but I had never before done in my garlic press. After reading Chip and Dan's Heath books, I thought, you know what? It's concrete, It's a story. I'm going for it. I hope all of this helps you guys in your upcoming speeches here or anyplace else. Thank you.